Confessions of a Psychotic Circuit Court Judge via Fraudulent Judgments and Payment Scams. Working Development Research Stage. Agreement. Pause to read. Minimum age of 18 required. Judicial rules state, a judge has 60 days to render a decision. However, nearly 10 months later, and on September the 18th, 2013, Decision Day, pages 194 to 197. Judge this Judice Ensor completes another goal set, very early on. Mr. Stengel is the problem. And he must pay, and pay. Judge this Judice Ensor provides her evidence, confirming her positions and allegations. Which is where we start. It begins at the bottom of 193, however, we shortly pick up on page number 194.
This is one of those tricky things, and perhaps someone else will see it differently, but I am telling you, Mr. Stengel keeps coming up with money. Now, I can't tell you exactly where it is. I really can't. I can't point to an exhibit that says exactly where it is.
Note, Mr. Stengel has money. However, she can't tell you where, or point to anything. But she is sure it's there. This is how she came up with her ruling on who has money to pay, and pay. This is how trapped she is. Can't point to any, unlike Miss Sileski's multiple false zero-income filings, and sworn testimony, and countless bank statements, proving she has money, and loads of it, all the while, repeatedly lying about it, along with everything else. The same exact day, on pages number 16-17.
Mr. Rudo, I already know that Miss Stengel hasn't always been honest. I know that. I know she lied to the police officer because she had Mr. Stengel's phone when she said she didn't. So I know that. And it didn't escape my notice that there were several discrepancies in the financial statements. In fact, in that hearing we had, that lasted several days, it was like every day. I would get a before lunch and after lunch amendment. So, I mean...
A manufactured, virtual world, containing pure delusion. What do we really have here? A confession. Like Mr. Bradford G. Y. Carney, so too, did Judge this Judice Ensor, just kept coming up, empty. As he manufactured his virtual world, containing pure delusion. November the 30th, 2012. Last day of trial, and one of Mr. Carney's closing arguments.
Because as Mr. Fetter said, to ferret out the lie, you've got to do more work. And the more work I did, the more frustrating it became because I just kept coming up empty.
Yet his own expert swears under oath.
And as a consequence of your review of those bills, do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of professional legal certainty as to whether or not they are fair, reasonable, and necessary?
I believe they were fair, reasonable, and necessary.
This is all happening in front of Judge this Judice Ensor, who herself confesses Miss Sileski is a liar, and provides false financials, repeatedly. Mr. Bradford Carney confesses, his $200,000 of bills resulted in him continually coming up empty. Yet continued, without being paid by Miss Sileski. At what point does the work become unreasonable? As did Mr. Liam W. Berg, as he manufactured his virtual world, containing pure delusion. The same exact day, on page number 37.
Contrary to what Mr. Rudo said, very little of my perspective on this case had much to do with what Ms. Sileski said, or didn't say, or did, or didn't.
Huh? Yet billed in excess of $62,000, and states he relied on his expert, Dr. Killeen. Except the best interest attorney rules state he is to do independent investigations. Also, Dr. Killeen, although false, stated she completed her investigations in September 2011. What was Mr. Berg doing for the 8 months prior? And if that were the case, what was the need for Mr. Berg? That takes care of the virtual world and false statements to the court. As we enter reality, the true reason, never mentioned by Mr. Berg or Dr. Killeen, was provided to Mr. Berg, upon his own request for information, way back in February 2011.
Dr. Alan Kimmel, Ms. Stegel's medical doctor, aware of Ms. Stegel's mental health issues.
Yet Mr. Berg and Dr. Killeen refused to obtain those medical records, or make any mention of it at any time, in any form, ever. It also went to Mr. Carney, as well. How else could they all manufacture their fraudulent bills? Mentally ill equals lots of bills. And Judge Ensor, with foreknowledge, falsely states, it's Mr. Stengel that has mental illness.
Dr. Alan Kimmel, Ms. Stegel's medical doctor, aware of Ms. Stegel's mental health issues.
And Dr. Catherine Killeen, as she manufactured her virtual world, containing pure delusion, but confessed to it, on December the 1st, 2011, on pages 54 to 55. Also included, Judge Kathleen G. Cox, can't point to one, either, as she manufactured her virtual world, containing pure delusion.
These actions are against me. They put me in prison for this fraud. And I have the right to show how this all occurred. And this is after that. So I can't start it at the prison thing, because what would that show? Nothing. That wouldn't be anything. So I have to show, like, how did this come to be? And where are my First Amendment rights to say what's so? And I'm not, they have yet to point to anything that's false. Okay? All they're doing is alienating people.
They point to several things that are false.
Like what?
There are all kinds of things in there that are false, Mr. Stengel.
Like what? Please tell me one.
I'm not going to get into this debate.
But there isn't any. I haven't provided any false information whatsoever.
Judge Kathleen Cox did not provide even the one Mr. Stengel asked for, other than general, roundabout, redirected nonsense, as you heard. Miss Silisky provides no evidence of any allegations or claims, besides her own manufactured virtual world, containing pure delusion. And, although these samples are extremely psychotic in nature, individually, add to that, they all agree.
But he looked me in the eye the day before you got in this case, Mr. Bruto, the day before, and said, I don't have any money. Next day, there you are. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from, but the man has access to funds. And frankly, he has access to funds now based on my decisions with respect to these buildings and not being marital property.
And I can tell you the check that we got, Your Honor, was not from Mr. Stengel.
All right.
I recall.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, he's got enough money that he's very generous with Scott Stengel, his adult son. Somebody he doesn't have to provide for.
Judge Ensor is talking about Mr. Stengel's older son, when he visits, gets something to eat. However, the context of that statement is directly based on Judge Ensor demanding Mr. Stengel have his adult son dismiss his replevin suit against Miss Silisky in order to retrieve his recorder Miss Silisky had his little sister steal, aka the stolen recorder. Mr. Stengel said he is an adult and can't force him. Ensor then basically said, you have control. Stop feeding him. Here is the replevin action filed. Eventually, as demanded by Judge Ensor, and directly to Scott as well, Scott dropped that suit. As if that suit has anything to do with her.
October 7, 2011. District Court of Maryland for Baltimore County. Plaintiff, Scott Eric Stengel. Defendant, Susan Sileski. Complaint. $5,000 or under. Checked. Replevin. Checked. Case number 0804003221822011. Susie Sileski had my 9-year-old sister steal my valuable audio recorder, which contained recordings left by myself, my 11-year-old brother and my father. Some of these recordings were patent ideas and other extremely sensitive information. My younger brother also used this as his personal diary. Which in my opinion, was her motivation for obtaining the recorder. When I asked my sister why she took it, she explained, Mom told me to get it and bring it to her. She said she knew it was wrong, but she didn't want to be spanked, and yelled at by Susie, like her brother. I was also unable to bring this recorder to my 2.5-hour-long lecture. This entire event has caused me great anxiety and upset. This is not the first time Susie Sileski has used my 9-year-old sister to obtain things illegally for her. A police report has been written in regards to this matter. Number 112781404. Legal. Checked. Return of property, and damages of $5,000. Checked. Other. Punitive damages for teaching my 9-year-old sister to steal. Checked.
And he has the Birch Lane home, which is only encumbered by a line of credit with his aunt. Now, everyone said Ms. Kramer just wasn't feeling well the day she testified, but she got up there. She doesn't know what she owns. She doesn't know what she literally, she was very surprised to learn that she owns any property, that being the 1% interest in the York Road property up in Warminster. She said she was just a signer of things. And she also said that she's loaned money to Mr. Stengel. She said there's this $200,000, I think it's a line of credit, and she explained that she just gets credit cards and spends them, reaches the max, and then gets another interest-free credit card. I don't know, but she thought he owed her $50,000. I think he thinks he owes her $70,000, and the house is worth far more than that. And I'm telling you, I'm convinced there's other money as well. And he is the driving force behind this litigation, and I don't think he thinks he is. And that's one of the problems. I don't know if it's this diagnosed mental illness, but it's the kind of thing. He got up there today, and he's like, Mr. Levy's available. Leading me, he wants me to believe that Ms. Stengel has inappropriately kept his children from him. Well, Mr. Levy's not available. He's not. He's in synagogue. At any rate, I think Mr. Stengel's never, I don't have any great confidence he's going to agree with me or understand. I don't think he thinks. I think he thinks he's a victim. And I don't agree with that. He's to contribute $135,000 to Ms. Stengel's attorney's fees. I will reduce that to a judgment. Let us move on to Mr. Berg and Dr. Colleen's fees. The parties stipulated that the work performed was necessary and that the fees charged as to each were fair and reasonable.
Huh? Really? The parties? Noting Mr. Lazaro is the moral and full crime ring member. Because you said on November the 26th, 2012, almost a year earlier.
We're not going to revisit things, and your attorney and Mr. Carty agreed that Mr. Berg's fees were fair and reasonable and necessary, and that Dr. Colleen's were. That's not something we're going to revisit. Okay. Now, Dr. Colleen.
Same thing. Dr. Colleen, I have not cross-examined Dr. Colleen, and she has, first of all, her bills are inaccurate, and I can prove that. That's number one, so it does have to do with finances.
You know what, again, we're not going to revisit things, and your attorney and Mr. Carty agreed that Mr. Berg's fees were fair and reasonable and necessary, and that Dr. Colleen's were. That's not something we're going to revisit.
But also Dr. Colleen was informed of a lot of things where by not looking at the right information which she was provided also catapulted more of this craziness that went on. Because if she would have just listened to, for instance, Alex, if she would have listened to me, if she would have listened to my son Scott, a lot of this stuff would have been prevented.
Okay, I understand.
And I think she should be questioned.
So the only issue is how do you allocate them? The initial agreement was that Mr. Stengel would pay, subject to an allocation at trial. Now, Ms. Celeste is of the opinion Mr. Stengel should be responsible for the remainder of the bill, of all of it. And Mr. Stengel is of the mind that he has paid plenty, and that the remainder should be the responsibility of Ms. Celeste. Mr. Stengel has paid $26,000 to Dr. Colleen, and I think $20,000 now to Mr. Berg. It was $17,500 before, and then he got a check for $2,500. But there are significant bills outstanding. And again, I think that Mr. Stengel either can't or won't understand his role in this.
Oh, but he does, as mentioned numerous times.
Wait for the experts. Which experts are you referring to?
I don't know. It's a future thing. I'm just a gatherer of information. I'm just a gatherer of information. I'm just a gatherer of information.
Isn't it true, Mr. Stengel, that what your doctor referred to as your compulsive desire to document through videos and otherwise the crimes of your wife, that this was part of that endeavor, to pull these checks out, accuse her of misappropriating it at best, stealing at worst, from what you characterize as your non-marital real estate account, when in fact it was for household issues and tuitions and your kids.
Okay, it's two questions. So should I ask the first one?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, so I'll answer the first question. The first question is that because I'm OCDC doesn't mean that what I'm gathering is not accurate. Okay, that's the answer to the first question. And what was the second question?
I'll move on, Mr. Stengel.
Okay.
The number of emails that people had to review. The number of emails that people had to review.
484 emails presentation covers that well.
He wants to go on about, they're padding with bills, but he wants to go on about, they're padding with bills, but the parties stipulated that the work performed was necessary and the fees charged as to each were fair and reasonable. He wants to go on about, they're padding with bills, but the parties stipulated that the work performed was necessary and the fees charged as to each were fair and reasonable. He wants to go on about, they're padding with bills, but he is just papering to death, and then complaining that it's like he doesn't fully understand the volume of the information he's providing, and then he finds fault if people review it and expect to be paid for it, and then further find fault if they don't agree with his position regarding it. At any rate, I believe Mr. Burr's outstanding fee is $37,095. I think Mr. Stengel's already paid $20,000 of the amount remaining. Ms. Stengel's to pay $11,419. Mr. Stengel's to pay $25,676. I'd be happy to reduce that to a judgment.
May I have those numbers again, Your Honor, please?
You may. I believe the outstanding fees are $37,095. I think $20's been paid by Mr. Stengel, and the remaining amount is to be divvied up as follows: $11,419 to be paid by Ms. Stengel, Mr. Stengel to pay $25,676. With respect to Dr. Colleen's bill, Mr. Stengel's paid $26,000 of her nearly $50,000 bill. I do find, again, the majority of the work was resulting from the actions or inactions of Mr. Stengel.
I'm just a gatherer of information. I'm just a gatherer of information.
He is to pay of this remaining amount $13,856, and Ms. Stengel's paid $9,965. I think that's everything.
And the golden fraud key.
Well, I think she would say that you won't stop.
Well, I can prove. See, but that's the difference.
That's where we are with this.
Right, but that's the difference. I have evidence, and she doesn't. I have evidence, and she doesn't. I have evidence, and she doesn't. I have evidence, and she doesn't.
This could have easily been dissected for hours. However, you may have seen, or can see the presentations, such as 400 emails or 84 emails, the Stoland Recorder, the Dr. Eisenberg fiasco, the Garrison Forest School fiasco, and many others. What you are looking at are extremely high-level, psychotic, evil, and dangerous people in society. Obviously, Mr. Stengel is not done documenting their crimes, as they are all trapped in the documentation, and must continue omitting more crimes forever.
Justice. A judge abides by facts, laws, truths and evidence. A justice creates their own facts, laws and truths, in the face of opposing evidence, and, or knowingly applies, lies to law. When the scales of justice become the scales of injustice, Note, this ad has been authorized by the actions of the Judgetess. Judgetess Judith C. Ensor. Note, the knighting of a Judgetess is taken very seriously. Similar to the Supreme Court, it's for life. Important, this term was specifically designed to separate the honorable judges from the dishonorable ones.
I think. How many times does she say that? Dear Judge, this Judith C. Ensor, typical to your personality type, you play both sides of the fence. Whichever suits you at that very moment. It's Mr. Stengel who has money, you can't point to, yet Miss Silisky files fraudulent financials with the courts. You contradict yourself more than one can imagine. The parties agreed on their fraud fees, then, you mentioned, Mr. Stengel has complained, even about padded billing. Sound familiar? All the court fraud is via Hobson's fraud consent orders. Wink wink.